Niccolò Machiavelli was a Renaissance thinker. He lived more than 500 years ago, but his ideas still challenge and provoke us today. One of his most famous and controversial statements is simple: it is better to be feared than loved. At first, this sounds harsh. We like to believe that love, kindness, and friendship are the best ways to lead and succeed. But Machiavelli asks us to look deeper, to question our assumptions about power, leadership, and human nature. To understand Machiavelli's advice, we need to start with the world he saw. Renaissance Italy was a place of constant conflict. City-states fought each other. Leaders were often overthrown. Alliances changed quickly. It was a dangerous time where power was fragile. In this world, Machiavelli wrote The Prince, a guide for rulers to keep control and survive. Machiavelli did not write from theory alone. He had experienced politics and power struggles firsthand. He saw how rulers who tried to be loved often lost their power. People are unpredictable. They can be kind one day and cruel the next. They may praise you when things go well, but quickly turn against you when trouble comes. This brings us to his famous idea: it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But what does he really mean by feared? Machiavelli is not talking about cruelty for its own sake. He does not encourage leaders to be tyrants who hurt people without reason. Instead, he means a kind of respect that comes from the knowledge that disobedience or betrayal will have serious consequences. Fear, in Machiavelli's sense, is about control. It is about ensuring loyalty through discipline. When people fear a leader, they think twice before acting against them. This fear creates order. It keeps society stable. But love is less reliable. People can love a leader, but when it is difficult or dangerous, love may disappear quickly. Machiavelli also believed that people are self-interested. They act mostly for their own benefit. They can be selfish and change their minds easily, so relying solely on their love is risky. Leaders must protect themselves against betrayal and weakness. At the same time, Machiavelli understood that ruling through fear alone is not enough. A leader must avoid being hated. There's a difference between being feared and being hated. Fear respects power. Hatred resists it. A leader who is hated may face rebellion, but a leader who is feared is obeyed. This balance is subtle and difficult. Machiavelli says a wise leader must be careful not to cross the line from fear to hatred. That means using punishment and force only when necessary. It means being strong but also fair. It means knowing when to be firm and when to be flexible. This advice challenges many modern ideas about leadership. Today, we often hear that good leaders inspire trust, kindness, and empathy. Machiavelli does not reject these qualities outright, but he warns that in the harsh reality of power, they are not enough. He invites us to look honestly at human nature and the realities of politics. Power is not a game of idealism, it is a struggle. It requires hard choices. Sometimes it means putting aside what feels good for what works. In this way, Machiavelli's message is a call for realism. It asks us to see the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. And once we see clearly, we can act with strength. As we continue this series, we will explore what it means to be feared and not loved. We will ask how fear creates power, how leaders can avoid hatred, and how this advice applies not only to princes and kings, but to anyone who wants to lead effectively. We will also look at the dangers of this path, because power gained through fear can be fragile. It can lead to loneliness, to cruelty, to downfall. Machiavelli's wisdom is not a simple rule to follow blindly, but a guide to understanding the difficult art of leadership. So as we begin, keep an open mind. Think about your own experiences. When have you trusted fear over love? When have you seen love fail? And how might you balance these forces in your own life? This is the heart of Machiavelli's lesson. In the first part, we introduced Machiavelli's idea that it is better to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both. Now let's explore what this really means. Let's understand the nature of fear and love in the context of leadership and why Machiavelli gives fear the upper hand. Love is beautiful. It is warm, generous, and uplifting. When people love a leader, they feel connected. They want to support, help, and follow. But love is also fragile. It depends on feelings that can change quickly. People love when things are good, but love can fade when problems arise. Fear, on the other hand, is a more consistent force. It does not rely on positive feelings. Fear is rooted in respect for power and consequences. When people fear a leader, they obey because they want to avoid punishment or harm. This obedience can be reliable. Machiavelli argues that since people are naturally self-interested and often unreliable, a leader should base their power on what lasts. Fear lasts longer than love in the harsh realities of politics and human behavior. Think about this in everyday life. When a parent disciplines a child, sometimes the child listens because they love their parent, but other times the child listens because they fear the consequences of disobedience. Which form of control is more reliable? Often it is fear. Machiavelli extends this idea to rulers. Leaders must create order and loyalty. If they rely only on love, they risk losing control when emotions change or challenges arise. But if they inspire fear wisely, they maintain authority. However, fear is not about cruelty or oppression. Machiavelli warns against being hated. There is a difference. Hatred breeds resistance and rebellion. Fear creates obedience. So the wise leader uses fear carefully. Punishments are necessary but limited. Rewards and respect can also be part of leadership. The goal is to be feared enough to be obeyed, but not hated enough to be overthrown. This balance is difficult. It requires understanding people's desires and limits. It means knowing when to be firm and when to show mercy, when to command, and when to listen. Machiavelli also explains that people are quick to turn against leaders who do not protect their interests. If a leader is feared but also just and effective, people will accept the fear. But if fear turns into injustice, cruelty, or selfishness, hatred grows. Leaders then must be strong but also wise. They must create a reputation that encourages respect and caution, but not resentment. Another important point is that people's loyalty is often based on convenience. If they think the leader can protect or benefit them, they will follow. If they think the leader is weak or vulnerable, they will abandon him. This is why fear can be a stronger motivator. It reminds people that the leader has the power to reward or punish. It keeps the social order intact. Machiavelli also recognizes that it is ideal to be both loved and feared. But since this is difficult, he advises prioritizing fear if a choice must be made. Why? Because love is uncertain and can disappear. Fear is more predictable and can be controlled. In modern times, this idea can seem cold or even cynical. But Machiavelli's goal is not to encourage cruelty. It is to teach leaders to be realistic. to see human nature clearly and act accordingly. He wants leaders to survive and succeed in difficult environments. He wants leaders to understand that power is fragile and must be protected. As we move forward, we will explore how fear can be used effectively, how leaders can avoid hatred while maintaining control, and how Machiavelli's lessons can be applied beyond politics to business, relationships, and life itself. The message is not to be cruel, but to be strong. Not to seek approval, but to seek stability. Not to avoid conflict, but to master it. This is the path to lasting leadership according to Machiavelli. We have explored Machiavelli's bold advice. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. We have understood the nature of fear and love, and why fear often provides a more stable foundation for leadership. Now, in this final part, let's focus on how to apply this wisdom wisely and ethically. Machiavelli is often misunderstood as promoting ruthless cruelty, but his advice is more subtle. He teaches that fear must be balanced with respect. Being feared does not mean being hated or despised. Hatred weakens a leader. It leads to rebellion and downfall. The challenge is to inspire fear in a way that maintains respect and loyalty. How do you do this? First, by being consistent. People fear unpredictability and injustice more than firm control. When a leader is fair but firm, people accept their power. They know the rules and the consequences. This predictability creates order and trust, even if it is based on fear. Second, by showing strength without cruelty. Punishment is necessary, but it should be measured and purposeful. It should not be arbitrary or excessive. A leader who punishes fairly gains respect. A leader who punishes unfairly loses it. Third, by protecting those under your care. Fear is easier to accept when people see that the leader also provides safety and order. When fear is combined with protection and stability, it creates loyalty. People follow because they feel secure, not just because they are afraid. Fourth, by controlling your image. Reputation is crucial in leadership. A leader must project strength. They must appear confident, decisive, and capable. When people believe their leader is strong, they are more likely to respect and fear them. But there is a danger here. Fear can isolate a leader. It can create loneliness. It can make people cautious, but also distant. So a wise leader also knows when to soften their approach, when to build connections, and when to inspire hope. Machiavelli understood this complexity. He did not see leadership as a simple rule book. It is a delicate art. It requires judgment, wisdom, and courage. For you, the listener, Machiavelli's lesson has many applications beyond kings and princes. In your work, in your relationships, in your community, you may face situations where you need to lead or influence others. Machiavelli's advice can help you understand the power dynamics at play. It reminds you that kindness alone is not always enough, that strength and boundaries are necessary. You do not have to be cruel to be strong. You do not have to be harsh to be respected. But you must be clear. You must be consistent. You must be confident. And sometimes you must be firm enough to inspire fear. This fear is not about terror. It is about respect for limits. It is about knowing that there are consequences. It is about creating safety through strength. In the end, Machiavelli's message is a call for realism and courage. To lead well, you must understand human nature. You must accept that people are not always good or loyal. You must accept that power requires difficult choices, but you must also use power wisely. You must avoid hatred. You must seek respect. You must balance fear with fairness. And you must remember that the goal is not domination but stability, not cruelty but order, not weakness but strength. This is how a leader becomes unstoppable, not because they are loved by all, not because they are liked by everyone, but because they are respected and feared in the right measure, because they stand firm when others waver, because they do not ask for permission to be strong, because they protect what they lead with courage and wisdom. This is the truth Machiavelli offers us. It is a truth that challenges our ideas about leadership. It asks us to look beyond comfort and kindness. It calls us to embrace strength, realism, and responsibility. So as you go forward, remember this lesson. Don't just seek to be loved. Don't just seek to be liked. Seek to be respected. Seek to be strong. Seek to be steady. Seek to be a leader who others can rely on. Be feared, not because you are cruel, but because you are wise, because you are just, because you are firm, because you are unstoppable. That is the power Machiavelli teaches, and that power is yours to claim.